Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're located. And welcome to this webinar focusing on the upcoming ASABE ballot proposal. Should the ASABE Constitution be amended to incorporate a fifth council, a Strategic Initiatives Council? My name is Darren Drollinger. I'm the Executive Director with ASABE. Certainly my honor to serve in a moderator role this afternoon. In a few minutes, we'll kick off, but first some quick session tips. If you have questions at any time, you can type them into the chat. Also, we will be opening up for verbal questions and during the question and answer segment. The session is being recorded, so it'll be available for later viewing on the ASABE YouTube channel. So please be sure that if you would, to stay muted when you're not actively speaking. So we'll maybe give it a few more moments. We've got a good crowd. We had, I think, darn near 60 people pre-registered, but we did not anticipate 60 folks would necessarily show. We'll give just a couple moments. Okay, I haven't seen the number change recently here, and since folks can catch up at any time, let's go ahead and get started. Today, Angela Green Miller has graciously agreed to host a discussion on the ballot proposal. Angela is an associate professor in the Agricultural and Biological Engineering Department, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. She's an active leader with the effort to establish the Strategic Initiatives Council. And throughout the session, Angela will be addressing previously submitted questions, as well as information that has been talked about and worked on by the leadership team, which she will talk about during remarks. We will address questions and comments, as I mentioned, in person during the session. And so with that, let's go ahead and get going. Angela?
All right. Hi, everybody. Darren, thanks for serving as our moderator today. And thanks, everybody, for joining us. I thought I would start with just a very brief history of how do we get to here. And it kind of tells you a little bit about why I'm talking too. So we did publish an article in the current version of resource. So I want to highlight that for you. It has some FAQs for just an overview of the proposed council, the Strategic Initiatives Council, and a little bit of the history within that for how did we get here. But I want to recap it with some more details. So I'm really speaking as the representative. I take no credit for creating any of these ideas, but I've been a part of helping them to grow. My involvement in this process started in kind of 2019, 2020 with the Circular Bioeconomy Systems Group, which had a roundtable in 2020. I participated in that. It was an emerging idea that came out of the annual international meeting the prior year. And there was a lot of discussion around this topic that was really important. Potentially, ASABE would be a leader in this area, and there's a tremendous amount of impact and problems that need to be solved, and it was a great opportunity for ASABE to get involved. Play that forward a little bit, the roundtable turned into a task force, which I was a part of as well, and that eventually grew into the Circular Bioeconomy Systems Institute, which it is now, and so that's been about a 4-year process. Along that process, it was identified that there's a need for ASABE to have a better mechanism to support that type of initiative. So what type of initiative is that? It's an initiative that really needs to bring together people from a variety of different places. And I'm going to say places in air quotes. So it could be geographical places, people from other parts of the world. It could be from multiple societies. It could be from multiple disciplines within ASABE. And with circular bioeconomy systems, all of those were needed. And the mechanisms really didn't already exist. So we were trying to create them as we were moving forward and in order to make progress. We realized that not only would it benefit the circular bioeconomy systems group to have a structure that could do that, but how many other great ideas are there where ASABE would be a leader in solving real significant problems in the world. If that mechanism were in place, it could help those to move forward in a more efficient way and not get lost somewhere in the process. So I have since stepped away from the leadership in circular bioeconomy systems. They're moving strong. I see folks from that group in the room with us, so thank you for that. And have become a part of the Strategic Initiatives Council. There was a task force created in 2022 to explore, is this really a need within ASABE? That group then moved forward to propose the idea of a new council to the Board of Trustees. We wrote bylaws. The Board of Trustees approved in the spring of 2023 for it to move forward. And it moved forward for a vote at the annual international meeting last summer. And that approved for us to move forward to a full membership vote to create a new council. Currently, there is a council planning group that is active. And I'm representing that group today. Others that are in the room with us that will also help me to answer some of your questions. Doug Otto is here in the room. I see John Reed. I see Brahm Verma, Oladaran Fasina. And let's see, I saw Rafael. Oh yeah, Rafael Garcia, there you are. Is there anybody else that has joined that I didn't acknowledge? Oh, Paul Heineman, there you are. Oh, you're on my list. I don't know how I missed that. Anybody else joined that I didn't acknowledge? Perfect. And all of these folks have been involved at various levels in that process I just described. Some have been with us from almost the beginning and some have joined recently because we're trying to represent many different perspectives from within ASABE to ensure that this new council is representative of the needs of ASABE. One of the questions we received was regarding the purpose and the objectives of the council. So I am going to screen share the draft bylaws. And I'm not going to share the whole thing. I just want to share a couple of pieces, but specifically our bylaws are drafted. They were presented to the Board of Trustees, and that's what we'll move forward with for how the new council will operate. But the first section of that is the purpose of the new council. And these bylaws were written kind of with the same structure that the other councils within ASABE have. So we're following the mold, if you will, of how councils are structured. But specifically, I wanted to identify what would the purpose of this council be. And I can paraphrase it for you kind of quickly, but I wanted to have the full purpose statement up here on the screen if you want to read it in more depth. But the goal of this council will be to support new cross-cutting ideas. So ideas that require people from multiple places in order to be successful in early stages. So in those early stages, help them navigate how to function within ASABE and what they might need to become in the future. So just helping them to navigate that process, serving somewhat as advisors to help them grow and find their foundation. The goal isn't for them to be a part of this council forever, but helping them navigate the process and find their place in the future. Does anybody want to add to that? Any of our other planning group members? Good so far. All right. I'll pause periodically and just ask if anybody wants to add.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to mention, I think some people raised the question about is this council, is its job to create the new initiatives?
Great.
And
yep.
I can let you answer that.
Yeah, why don't you answer it? I think it's a great question, and it's kind of woven in the questions we have today, but not that directly. So
Yeah,
would
the,
you
the,
like
the
to
answer
start it?
is that it could be, but that's not the main intent. The main intent is to let grassroots initiatives, let them come up grassroots, and then we would help, or this council would help facilitate that. So we want to make sure that it's clear that we don't want people waiting around for this council to come up with ideas. We really want people to bring their ideas to the council, and so that they can get the support that's needed to make it a reality.
Yeah, no.
Or if we find there's a different mechanism that would work, we could give that feedback as well.
Perfect. And I think with that, the last place before we move on is I just want to kind of clarify where we are in that process. So there is a vote for the full membership that will open in just a few days. And we need the approval of the full membership in order to continue to move forward. And so that's where we're at with the discussion today, is to answer questions that the membership has about what is it that we're proposing and what are the impacts of that. We know that all of you are really great thinkers. We want your engagement in the process. And so we've spent a lot of time preparing this. And we also know that it's going to continue to develop as we move forward with it. So we want engagement with the membership within this. The council is intended to support the membership, support the needs of the membership. And we also want input as we're developing so that it can best serve the society. So I think that's my opening spiel. Darren, do you want to go into some of the prepared questions? You want to read them for us, and we'll address them?
I certainly can do that. I apologize. I don't have the questions real
all right.
handy.
I can go with them too. No worries. I wasn't sure how we were going to volley that one. Okay, so several questions were submitted prior to today. And so we'll go through those first, and then any questions that come through the chat, we'll circle back to those. So the first question we have here is, how does the proposed council align with ASABE's vision? Can you provide information on how the addition of the Strategic Initiatives Council aligns with the long-term vision and goals of ASABE? And how will the new council contribute to advancing the mission of our organization? I think, Doug, were you going to take a stab at that for us?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So, I mean, if we consider the other councils of ASABE and how they work with our membership across all communities to first, let's say, on the vision to promote food and water and safe environment, they're focused on either publications or standards or meetings that bring people together in different ways. Well, the purpose of this council is to provide the vehicle to let the people come together across the society to promote initiatives that do the same thing, but these are actually would be some actionable things and maybe movements out beyond the society. So we want ASABE to be considered an expert and contributor in this, but then also many of those initiatives may involve other groups. And because of that, we feel we need a new organizational structure within the ASABE to better facilitate that. We don't have a good home today for those type initiatives, and we're expecting, as the society becomes more relevant everywhere, that we're going to have more of those. I mean, we have two that are very exciting now. We're looking for more. So that's why. I mean, our mission hasn't changed. We just feel that we need this additional council to help coordinate the effort and provide a structural way that we can engage with groups outside of ASABE, and for them to see us as the leader. Is there other comments to that from the group, or? I think you're on mute, Brahm. I see you.
Sorry. I just going to say that this council will be a catalyst for those individuals who have good ideas and thinking, but not coming forward because they don't know where to go and how to have that idea be discussed in public to see where it goes. So most living organizations have mechanisms to receive new ideas, discuss them, and mature them. And some will survive and others will go sideways because they were not sufficiently correct for the purpose. So I think by creating this council, ASABE will be telling its members and others, even those who are not currently members for whatever other reasons, that they have an opportunity to bring their ideas and grow them and contribute them that will address the broader mission and vision of ASABE. And I think the two initiatives are essentially an example that they sort of struggle in their own way because of the energy of the few members. I wonder how many other ideas exist out there that may emerge because of the opportunity you provide to have something like this. So that's a really important component. Being a member for a long time, I felt like this is something that was needed, and it's time to consider it. Thank you.
Bram, that is a perfect segue into our next question. So I want to keep going. So we mentioned that there's two initiatives, and I'd only called by name the Circular Bioeconomy Systems Initiative. The other is the Alliance for Modernizing African Agri-Food Systems. Both of those initiatives have become well established because they have such strong champions that have really navigated the process. And when I say the process, again, kind of in air quotes, because there is no formal process other than to become an initiative, you go through a process being approved by the Board of Trustees. But what the process looks like to get there, there is no structure for that, which is what this council is intending to address. We do have a question that says, please clarify how the proposed new council would have helped these current initiatives that we've referred to. And essentially the thought is simply having a space for them to live doesn't help this member understand, because obviously these two initiatives have they're reaching success. They've become well established even without the existence of this new council. So I thought, Bram, I'm actually going to defer to you because you were at the very beginning of the Circular Bioeconomy Systems initiatives as well. Can you talk a little bit about how this council would have helped that process move along?
I think initially we were having difficulty to identify how should we organize within the current structure of ASABE, where might this activity be housed and supported by which group and where. And I think it is through that struggle we conceptualized, or this idea had emerged, that we need something like this at a core so that such ideas can mature. I do want to also, for those who are thinking about voting this, to recognize that the Strategic Iniatives Council is essentially separate to the two initiatives. The two initiatives have allowed us to think about it, but there will be other initiatives that will come. So CBSI, or African Initiative, is not the council. I want to clearly distinguish that. The purpose of the council is to have ideas of members come forward and propose and have a place where they can bring groups together to take it to the level it can or it ought to go to. So the two ideas that are currently there should be taught only as an example rather than the Strategic Initiative Council itself.
Angela, if I may.
Sure.
So I think one of the big challenges when the AMAA, the African the AMAA came about before I was in the leadership roles of president-elect and president and all. So I don't know exactly how that initiative found their way, but I do know that the CBSI now came about while I was president. It started before that, but the rubber hitting the road, the process, like how do we get established? How do we get the resource support from ASABE? That happened while I was president, and there was a lot of like challenges with answering the questions, with answering like how do we do this? And so that's where I think that, well, of course, that is where this idea came from for a council, because I had tasked that group to come up with some ideas on where they would fit as an initiative. And so out of that came this council idea. But I know they struggled because we had a lot of time used in figuring out what staff support is there. Where will they, how do people find out about this initiative? Like which group within ASABE would handle that? Who's communicating? Who do they contact? But none of those questions were answered. So what might have taken 3 years to really get going with the council, we feel could probably get going in about, maybe 6 months or whatever, a year at the most, because there would be a structure in place.
Yeah. John, you unmuted. Did you want to add to that?
No, I just think, well, I will add a little bit to it. I think the thing is that strategic initiatives can take many forms, and I think these two, AMMA and CBSI, should not be looked at as the only kinds of things that council can work on. It's a little bit about understanding the current state of the society and where we want to go into the future, and mechanisms to help the transformation take place. Are they the ideas that fit the society? How do we execute them? How does it impact what we do today? All of those types of things. There's no forum for that. And CBSI and AMMA are more examples of grassroots activities that formed and tried to make those interfaces happen in any ways that they can. So that would be my contribution to this, is that don't think of all of these things as being major initiatives, but they could be things like I almost don't want to say, but it could be things like what does our web presence look like? How do we work with other external groups? These are strategic issues that need help.
Yeah, there's one coming up in the questions that somebody proposed that'll be a good one that's way outside different than the two we have as our current examples. I will say I spent some time thinking about that question, trying to what is the simple answer to that? And what I came up with is kind of a summary of what you all said. This council will allow the people who are spending their time on those initiatives to focus on the initiative and not on the administrative pieces. So this council will advise them and help them make strategic decisions based on how ASABE works to help them be successful, so that they're not trying to do all of those things while supporting and moving their initiative forward. So basically it was more efficient with their time. They can spend more time on the initiative and less time navigating ASABE. The next question we have is how will the Strategic Initiatives Council engage with the membership? And so it's kind of it's a couple questions that I pulled together, a multifaceted piece, but I think the answer is kind of all wrapped up together. So a couple of different members had comments. One was we should regularly gather member input in order to improve the effectiveness of the society and of the council. So how will we engage with membership? How will council members be selected? What are the criteria and processes for selecting members? Are there plans to involve the general membership? What are the strategies to ensure active engagement? And are there proposed mechanisms for broader membership engagement? All of that is wrapped up in the bylaws of the council. Much like all of the other councils of ASABE have a set of how they operate guidelines. Ours are very similar. We'll have liaisons from the other councils. We'll have members from each of the initiatives, and we have ad hoc members. So anyone who wants to be involved with the council can be involved with the council. So that's kind of the easiest answer. In terms of how do we engage with broader membership, I think that's a piece of we'll learn as we move forward. That's not a piece that is spelled out in the bylaws. And I think that we're going to learn by doing in that place. That is the intent of the council. So that's a piece where the council will learn as they move forward. Do you all want to add anything to that one?
Yeah, I think the one thing we do also have to make clear, because it could be a little confusing, is that this is not a strategic planning committee.
Right.
We are not dealing with the strategic goals of the society. That is handled a whole different way through the Board of Trustees. So this is just about initiatives, not strategic planning. So I didn't know if I heard some sense of that in the question.
That's fair.
Well, I'm glad you have brought that distinction, Paul. I think that's an important one. This council is intended, as I see, is for the members to bring their creative ideas and have a place for it to grow and discuss and identify other members and even other groups to come together and contribute to it. And the positive side of this, in addition to the ideas that become success, that you will be connecting with many other groups and many other potential members of ASABE, because they'll be engaged in something of their interest. We have, in our experience, added several members to ASABE because of their interest in the effort that we are making.
Both great comments. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. One of the concerns I suspect from much of our membership is how this impact resources that we have available and how they get distributed. So the question is, will having a fifth council divide and divert our staff and our volunteer attention from critical topics and action items that this society requires to keep goals and strategies aligned? Doug, are you going to tackle that one for us too? Thank you. All right, and you're muted.
Thank you. So yes, I'll try to answer this one. And the fact is our intention with this council is just the contrary to that, in the fact that the intention is to provide a vehicle for us to better manage our resources. We will, by default with this council, we have asked for the creation of a new staff director position to lead the council, but the reason for that is so that we can create the person that can manage these initiatives and help direct the staff in a proper way, so that we don't lose focus on other things that are important and priorities set by the other councils. Because in the end, we do have the other four councils that'll work and drive some priority to staff. But the intention is that with this new position of the council director and having a structure underneath them to properly set the priority, that we can much better manage our staff that we have available. Today, especially in the communications area, they get pulled in many directions from all of the different groups asking for resources from the same 2 or 3 folks. The intention is that this will help us better manage that, and we can set up more planning that helps better to engage how much time and effort we need. And then also, if we need additional resource, we can plan for that and even the funding that comes with it to support it. So it's really about trying to better manage the resources we have available and make more impact with them.
But Doug, if I may just clarify, the staff position, the director related to strategic initiatives, I do want to be clear that the council is actually being led by members. The staff people are the resource support.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I don't know if you're aware that you worded it that way.
Well, I didn't mean to say it that way. I'm sorry, and give that
Yeah.
impression.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same as the structure that we have with the other
It's-
councils, and the
Exactly.
fact that there's a staff support that's the primary contact of support, but all of the councils are member led.
Yeah. Thank you, Doug.
Yep, thank you.
Doug, I think maybe you might also want to share that the possibility of having more resources because of the such activities or such initiative that bring new ideas and new members and new opportunities to develop funds. I know the foundation is working, taking advantage of these initiatives to develop funds. So it's not only the current resources that we could be adding resources or for use for the initiative. Would you want to make some comment on that regard?
Yeah,
you-
for sure. So that's another point. I mean, our expectation is that with these strategic initiatives that will ultimately be the forefront of priority, that many of them will reach out to other groups, other folks that aren't engaged with ASABE today. And with that, then will come financial resource or advantage as well. And with that, then, I mean, we may have the opportunity to add more staff because of the funding that comes along with it, but certainly it opens the opportunity for the foundation to engage with those organizations to bring in more funds and to support the activity of the society. So this council will serve as an important part to help us grow the overall impact of the society by meaning how much financial resource we have available. It should be considered as an opportunity, not a, oh, here we go, adding more overhead. So that's the biggest message we want to make sure everybody sees. We view this as very much the vehicle for opportunity to help us grow the society in terms of impact technically and also by impact financially. And it's needed very much for us to be able to do that.
Thank you. I think one additional clarification, the vote that's up is not a vote for the position we're talking about. That was already approved by the Board of Trustees, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So the council establishment and the establishment of that staff position are independent of one another, but the intent is that they will work together. Correct?
That is correct. Now, obviously, excuse me, the highly unlikely event that the council isn't approved, then, we'll need to address that. But there are activities and there's enough in place that I think that's just highly unlikely, given the groundswell of support, both at the Omaha annual meeting in person and what we've heard since. There really have only been a few things that have been raised, and we touched on them. Question there was, well, will it in the short run have more costs? And the answer is yes. And sure, we're devoting resources and energy to something we haven't done before, and that has some inherent risk. But the people that have spent countless hours, and certainly Jim Jones and Bram lead that list, the payoff down the road is just exponential.
This really is an instance of a spend a little money to make money kind of thing, right? It's an investment. Absolutely. Okay, let's move to the next question on here. And it's kind of circling back to one we talked about earlier. And I think we can expand on that. So the question is, will one of the strategic initiatives be how to get high school students in the US interested in studying agricultural and biological engineering at universities? As agriculture becomes more and more of a fringe occupation in the US, additional efforts will be required to recruit undergraduate students. So that was the question from the membership, and I can give you the short answer, but I think it leads to a maybe a more important question that we want to make sure we revisit. It's worth saying twice, I guess. So the council itself is not intended to be generating new initiatives, right? So the membership of the council is not intended to create things to push out to the society. We want it to come the other way. So the answer is, we would love for that to be a new strategic initiative. We need the champion to bring it and to lead it, and we will support them. And that's how we envision this council operating. That's a fantastic example of another initiative that would really benefit the society. Looks very different than the two initiatives we used as our examples. And what we would love is we can help identify that champion, but if the champion comes to us, we will support them to move that through and make it happen, give them good advice for how to navigate ASABE, what resources exist, how can we find new resources, those sort of things. And so I think the bigger question might be for circling back, how will initiatives be identified and who will lead them? So we said it earlier, but I think it's worth saying again. It can happen two ways. People come to us with an initiative they want to champion. People come to us with an idea that they would like to see grow. Or as a council, we could have special sessions to generate ideas. Either of those I could see happening in the future. That's one of the pieces that I think the council will figure out as we move forward. We believe that our membership has really good ideas that needs some fostering. And fostering in terms of how to help them grow out of ASABE. We know that there have been a lot of good ideas that have, we'll say, stagnated maybe when they got to the level of how to navigate across the silos of our committees and of our current structure. We have a lot of really great things happening within those groups, but some things need to cross the groups. And that's where we often see initiatives having problems, is when they need to navigate across multiple groups within our society. And that's the purpose of this council, things that are bigger than one specific disciplinary group. Do I want to add to that? Get it? All right, we got it. We've said it twice. It's good. We actually, the next thing on the list is a comment. I don't know that there's a question within this. It says, this is a good idea, and I strongly believe it's for the development and sustainability of our great professional body. So I think that's a good summary statement for like an understanding of what we're doing. So the next question on the list, what is the timeline for implementation of the new council if approved by the membership? Are there any transitional processes involved in integrating the new council into ASABE's structure? So earlier I was talking about the bylaws. So we've already structured in a way that it fits into ASABE's existing structure. What we're voting on is whether to implement it. And we have a working group in place already. We're called the planning group, and that's the ones I highlighted earlier. If approved, implementation is essentially immediately. So that planning group already has membership that meets the criteria of the membership and the bylaws, and will be the first acting leadership group. And with the next cycle, we'll implement the bylaws to put the new positions in place. So I think that's the plan. So once the vote is complete, it's very nearly immediately. Darren, are there any other hiccups we have to overcome there?
Nothing that jumps to mind, but like anything in life, there'll be additional things we hadn't thought about. But there's nothing that I'm aware of that would definitely slow things down. And you know, we will learn you know, how and where ideas bubble up. So
That's it. We want to hit the ground running and be ready to support the groups that exist already, but really looking for supporting the new people that are have ideas they want to move forward. So I'm going to move to the questions in the chat.
I think we have one so far, Angela. So if there's anyone else that either wants to raise one, maybe someone type one in.
Yeah, I
John?
see one over here.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and I see another one. I thought I saw two before.
Sure.
So the first one is, for the proposal to pass, what % is required? And is that of all of those voting or all of the membership?
Sure. Yep, and really appreciate that question, John. It's a good one. And I see David Smith is on the call, and he is the chairman of our Constitution and Bylaws Committee. So I thought not only do I need to be sure to get that number right, but I need to be able to cite exactly where it is. It's Article C-16 in the Constitution, and what that requires is of all eligible voting members, and that is individuals that have what's called corporate member status are eligible to vote, and that is defined within the Constitution and the bylaws who that is. And 2/3 of those voting need to vote in the positive. So it requires a super majority of those voting. And Angela, you referenced it. Officially, the voting will open tomorrow. Hopefully, everybody received emails. We had a couple because we had initially a bad link, but the pre-information with the leadership individuals, and then the voting as well. The last time we've had a constitutional amendment that we voted on was to give students, the question of giving students the right to vote, and that was so close to passing, but it did not get the 2/3 mark. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. I don't hear any follow. There is a follow-up comment in here proposing that only members should be considered. So I think we're following essentially the bylaws of the society for this vote, correct?
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Yep.
So so again, only members will receive the invitation to vote. And only the members, for instance, undergraduate student members, there's no mechanism for them currently to be able to vote.
Okay, the next question in here is, I think, much longer term and a really great question. Something we spent a lot of time talking about and we don't have the full resolution for it. So I'll read out the question and then we'll kind of talk it through. It says, I don't see in the Constitution changes anything in the bylaws proposed or current that dictate closing out or sunsetting strategic initiatives once they meet their listed goals, or a structured reevaluation. Obviously, the two that we have currently are long-term focused, but if there was a more short-term, narrower focused initiative, there's a concern that that initiative has run its course, but could still keep pulling resources. So within the bylaws for how the council will operate, one of the things that we will do for each initiative is a reevaluation annually. And the council will make recommendations to those initiatives. So there is a mechanism in place that an initiative isn't permanently going to live within the council. That's not the purpose of the council. It's to get things kickstarted and then help them reach their goals and wrap it up, or find a more permanent home. And now we don't have the answer to every one of those. One, we expect initiatives are going to pop up that don't fit a mold. So we didn't create a mold. And I think that's one of the things that the council will do over time is create some best practices and some guidelines as we have initiatives that we learn from. So do you guys want to add anything to that explanation? Yeah, I think it's not a one size fits all, but there is a mechanism for reevaluation. It's annual, it's in the bylaws, and that is one of the purposes of the council. So if the initiatives are taking our advice, when it's time for them to sunset, they will sunset. And when it's time for them to find a permanent home, we'll help them find that home.
Well, and
Thank
to Angela, I'll say, I mean, the purpose of the council is to provide some oversight on those initiatives, so that if there is this feeling among the council and then maybe beyond that that this initiative has reached its end, then that is the vehicle that we have to say, okay, we're going to put closure on this. So, I mean, it really becomes our vehicle for the oversight, which we don't have today. So that's another thing that we didn't mention earlier, is that this council does provide us the vehicle really for oversight on the initiatives. That it's made up of folks that aren't directly involved with any of those initiatives, let's say, to help with this. And we don't have that today either. So,
Yeah, they currently live in the wild.
yes.
Until
Yeah.
they reach a point where the Board of Trustees can give them some consideration. And so what we'll do is give some structure oversight. I don't know exactly what the right word is, because we're still like, what is the right word? We give them some guidance while they're living in the wild. And then they become something more permanent, go the route of the Board of Trustees, or they reach their goals within our protective enclosure and they sunset and move on. So I think that's the best explain. Jonah, did you have a follow-up? I saw you unmute, but did we answer it?
Yep, definitely answered that. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. We still have a few minutes left. Are there any further questions? Feel free to raise a hand, unmute a mic, type into the chat. Anyone on the planning group, anything you'd like to add that we haven't covered?
I just would like to say, folks, that, you know, I can't remember if we need, I think is there a quorum to vote, Darren, for the ballot? Like,
No, I
no,
apologize
just
if
the business
I
meeting.
wasn't clear. It requires 2/3 of
Of
those that
voting
vote.
members to,
Yep.
yeah.
Vote affirmative. So we typically get in the neighborhood of the high teens of percentage,
Yeah.
voting. We don't quite hit 20%, which, believe it or not, is pretty solid numbers when talking to
But
peers.
even then, a few votes can make a difference. So
They can.
we hope
They
that you
absolutely
all will vote favorably for this. We have put a lot of thought into it. It's been a lot of time. You know, a lot of the questions people have could be answered if we could share the bylaws, but we don't really have, you know, unlike the established councils, we have draft bylaws, and we don't really know if we should be sharing how publicly we can share those before they've been approved. So anybody can participate in the council, the pre-council. We call it the ghost council, I think. I don't know if that's the shadow council.
Our
That all
official
sounds
name
very,
is the planning group.
yeah, thank you. We were calling it the shadow council, but
We
that
were, yeah.
sounds
We
very
have an official
nefarious.
name now.
Yeah. And so, you know, and upon, if anybody asks, we can share those. We just
Yeah.
haven't posted them publicly. So I think a lot of the questions that have been asked, we've put a lot of thought into. So when you get a chance to vote, please, I'm just asking to vote favorably. Make your own decision, but we appreciate a positive vote.
Yeah, really
Yeah, I think it's
appreciate
also important to note, you know, the very last article of the bylaws are changes to the bylaws. So they're not fixed in stone, right? This is the first working order of how we'll operate. And we, again, encourage membership to come and get involved with it. So this serves the society in the best way possible. And every year when the council meets, we can revise those bylaws. If it's not working, we'll change it to make it serve the society.
Doug direct messaged me and asked the question. Doug, I think it's a good one. If there's anyone on the call here that sees a negative, we simply have not heard it. The points that have been brought up about cost and potential structure and challenges. My cautionary note is, and certainly coming out of the Omaha meeting, it's easy to perhaps get a little overly excited because if everything works perfectly, rarely happens in life. And so there'll be a learning curve. There'll be things that just take ferociously longer than they feel like they should, but that's all part of life. But I guess I would be curious if someone's willing to share if they can identify any reason why, because we've not heard that any negative.
Yeah, I think we see with the two examples we have that when we have a really strong set of champions, they'll move forward. I think the thing we have for this council is a really strong set of champions that want this council to be established and to be successful because it's good for ASABE. So, you know, if nothing else, that's, you know, probably the biggest selling point is that we're trying to overcome a challenge that exists. You have a set of champions that want to see it be successful. And now we just need to, you know, get the backing and the support from the broader membership to see that move forward. All right, Darren, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Well, okay, I was gonna give one last call if anyone had anything more to add. John, I see you're unmuted. Did you have something to add?
I think the thing is that this is kind of a summary of everything that's been said today. You know, we have opportunities to grow the society and ideas about how to do that, but we have zero mechanism to have an interface. And so my feeling is a negative could be having ideas that are not able to be, you know, addressed and processed by the society. And I personally believe that letting things just try to work them the way through the system is not a very thoughtful way for the society to work. So I just really believe this is a place to come for member ideas to be processed and considered, and not always approved, but trying to figure out how to best integrate them into ASABE as we grow. So that's my supporting statement for
Yeah,
this.
great, great points. Great points.
Well said. Well said, John. Very well said.
Anything from anyone else?
The only thing I'll say is I very much appreciate everybody taking time to attend this discussion, and we appreciate very much your support in the election. And please tell all your friends. So
All right, thank you, Doug. Well, Angela, thank you for stepping forward and being willing to be the point of contact, and also your piece in the latest resource magazine. Look for your ballot soon, and you won't have to rush. The voting closes March 1st. So with that, everyone, we really appreciate the time and energy, and we'll see you on next member hour. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.